It's Soleil, and this is episode 71 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I'm going to do a little bit of an update, of course, as per usual. Account recovered like, what, 20% from last week, which is good. Uh, the way it works is if you lose 50% of what you started with, then you actually have to gain 100% back in order to get back even. So this was down like 10%, no, 20%? 20%, excuse me. That means it has to go up like 40% to get back where it was. I think that's right. So, yeah, 40% when it was down to 4 grand would be 4 times 4, 16. Yeah, maybe not quite that much. So, good to see it going back up almost to break even from where I started, which was not unusual or unexpected since I was buying Bitcoin mining stocks when Bitcoin was at an all-time high. So was completely prepared for a pullback if that happens. And some people will say, oh yeah, you should have been selling at that time and just waiting to buy the dip. But when they say, oh, you could have done this or you could have done that, I think it was Ryquant on X, one of the guys from the Quant Bros YouTube channel, and he said something like there is no could have in the stock market because a stock can trade sideways, it can go up or it can go down. That's the only three things it can do. And you are not promised any of those three results. Just because you're long and you want it to go up does not mean it won't immediately go down. And that's the point of this strategy. So when this went down, I had sold covered calls against it, so I reduced my cost basis. Now, unfortunately, one of the criticisms of this strategy that somebody said to me the other day, I had a little bit of an argument with them, is they said this is picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. And to a certain extent, that proved to be true this week. So I reduced my cost basis actually truly down to under $7 a share. So I was comfortable selling this 7.5 call. I got paid like 30 cents on it or something. But now I got to buy it back tomorrow for $1.50 because the price of HUT is back up to $9. And this does not bother me a bit. It'll all average out in the end. If I really wanted to, since I purchased an additional 36 shares with my premium over the last couple of weeks, I could, instead of buying more shares with the premium that I'm going to get tomorrow, I could go ahead and, sell. I have unlimited upside in these 36 shares. So because I've capped my profit in the 200 shares by selling 2 covered calls, it doesn't mean that I can't go long for some portion of my portfolio. And maybe that's another thing that people, investor types that are just like, oh, and diversify and then just buy and hold forever. And of course, those people obviously have an income from somewhere. But what if you just want to be a stock market trader? What if you just want to have money in the market and you want to profit from it without having to slog at a 9 to 5? What if you just want your money to make money? What are you going to do then? And so I sell covered calls against increments of 100 shares, but you don't have to buy exactly 100 shares. You can, if you want to have unlimited upside to a certain extent, however many shares you want to buy extra, or you can buy 500 shares and sell 4 covered calls. It's completely customizable. But people who have never even tried it, have never looked into it, they just don't understand that you can customize this completely to your trading style, your trading philosophy, your goals, and even with the strike selection. So I could have picked the $8 strike, collected less premium. Let's just click on this thing and see how much I got paid. Yeah, I got paid 31 cents. Well, I could have picked the $8 strike and maybe gotten paid 20 cents, or I could have picked the 8.5 strike and gotten, I don't know, 10 cents or something. And I would have collected the even more call away value here. So I was being a little greedy. This was at 7, so I collected 4% premium. I got 4% return on my investment for that week. I could have, like let's say we were doing this for next week today. It's a day early, so there's going to be an extra day worth of premium baked into this. This is worth $9, so 1% would be 9 cents. I could go over here and sell the 12. That allows for $3 in call away value, which is a 33% pump. If HUT pumps from 9 to 12 in 1 week, I get to collect all of that upside, and I still get to collect the 1%. So you don't have to be as greedy as I did. I was trying to pick up a few extra pennies, but then I got hit by the steamroller. And it really does not matter to me in the slightest. This all evens out. Sometimes the stock goes down and you sold it for 30 and bought it back for $1. So that's just how it is. So I'm stoked. Woke up to somewhat of a recovery here. I'd like to get another $280 out of this and get back to even Stevens. But you don't always get what you want. And the only other thing that I want to talk about before I shut this down for the day is arguments with shitcoiners on X or just in general. I got this guy that I met from at the Y in the sauna, and most people, if they let me talk about Bitcoin at all, they're just being polite. They might ask a polite question or whatever, but most people are either not interested or literally just anti-Bitcoiners. And I forget sometimes because I surround myself with so many people online that are just out of their minds, rabid dog, Bitcoiner, psychopath, orange pill, laser eyed, one track mind investors, that when I come across someone who isn't orange pilled and is even to the point where they're like anti-orange pill, they're against it, they don't have the slightest belief or not willing to even entertain it. So I met this guy and this guy was psyched. He was like, "Yeah, I'm all in. Like, I can't wait to talk about Bitcoin." And then the first red flag that I had was he got proof of stake and proof of work backwards when we were discussing what kind of coins would be, scam coins. And I said, right off the top, I'm like, my red flags for scam coins are proof of stake. Anything proof of stake, automatic scam coin. I don't even need to investigate further. And what boggles my mind is shitcoiners always want to talk about the tech. Oh, this coin has better tech. Well, guess what? 5 years from now, some other coin's going to have better tech. And what difference does the tech make if you're getting scammed? If the operation is a fucking scam, what difference does it make how good their tech is? The Fed's probably got crazy good tech. They probably got all kinds of cybersecurity. But the US dollar is a frickin' fiat Ponzi scheme. It's it's a hidden tax used to steal wealth from every single person. So what difference does it make how good their tech is? And so this guy, he's like, "Oh, we'll see. I still believe in Bitcoin, but Ethereum could be better, and we'll see. We'll revisit this in the future." And I'm like, I don't give a shit about Ethereum's tech. If you are proof of stake, you are at best vastly inferior to Bitcoin. At worst, you're a scammer. The other red flags are like, big pre-mines, anybody with, a paid development team. If if your if your shitcoin is hiring and you have a CEO, I mean, all of these things are red flags. And I try to explain it to this guy. I'm like, here are all the red flags for what a shitcoin is. Now tell me, do any of those red flags or do all of those red flags apply to the shitcoin that you're just so obsessed with, and you just won't let entertain any thoughts. I mean, some of these, I was in a space the other day. I had never really joined any spaces until a couple of days ago, but I joined this space where people are talking about Bitcoin, and there's some guys in there that even after the ruling that Craig Wright wasn't Satoshi came out, I mean, these guys were still just hardcore, like, oh, he's definitely Satoshi, and it doesn't matter if he is or he isn't. And some people were saying Bitcoin's code isn't even that good. It's not and it's nothing special about the complexity of the code. I'm like, who gives a shit about how super cool the code is? Does the code solve the problem of the money being debased? Does it incentivize cooperation instead of rug pulls? It does. So that's all I give a crap about. I don't care how many transactions per second you have. You can build extra layers. You know, instead of developing all these other shit coins, we're I want to see what kind of products people are going to develop on top of Bitcoin. That's where I can get behind. If you want to form a company and be like, hey, Bitcoin's a great store of value, but here's how you can pay for a cup of coffee with it, or here's how you can do this or you can do that. That's freaking phenomenal. That is strengthening the Bitcoin network. But building all these competitors that are just really just scams. I used to follow the four assholes, the billionaires, all in. I was really enjoying the All In podcast for a while. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting all these nuggets of information from these freaking billionaires or whatever. And then I saw somebody that clipped them basically joking about bag holding their Solana, and they're basically just gonna dump it for a profit as soon as they possibly could, because they don't give a shit about Solana. If I haven't even looked into it, because I used to trade any and everything, and maybe I made a couple of bucks, maybe I lost a couple of bucks. I damn sure know that I lost way more on Ethereum. My Bitcoin holdings would be so much higher if I hadn't fucked around and found out trading in and out of Ethereum. Oh my God. So anyway, I learned that lesson. Um, I try to save other people the trouble of having to learn that lesson, but maybe you just have to. Maybe you have to be involved in a rug pull, or maybe you have to trade in and out of these shit coins to finally figure it out that tech doesn't matter. The tech absolutely does not matter. So I don't care about the throughput. I don't care about your block size. I don't care about transactions per second. I don't care about any of that nonsense. I care about whether it has any scamming red flags or not. And Bitcoin is honest money for the next 5,000 years. And that's all I really need to know. Uh, the last thing I'll say is that if you truly think you're open minded, you will be able to identify your falsification criteria. So you should be able to list the things off that say, you know what, if current reality or if I was able to learn a piece of information, these 5 things that would cause me to reverse my position. You should be able to identify those. And if you can't or won't, you are not an open-minded person, or at the very least, being open-minded about this particular topic. And so for me, I'm orange pilled to the gills, but I do realize that existential threats are not zero. And so if I mean, I guess if somebody invented quantum computers tomorrow and could just hack, I guess that would change my bullish outlook to a certain degree. If Yeah, I mean, I guess if there was some kind of bug in the code that caused some kind of vulnerability, that would cause me to reverse my position to a certain extent. But the damn code is open source, so I mean, there's tons and tons of eyes looking at it. If I don't know, there could be a couple other scenarios that would cause me to reverse my position. Maybe if there was an EMP attack that knocked out electricity all over the world, then I would care more about food and ammo than Bitcoin. But until that happens, I am laser-eyed focused, and that's why the only 2 assets I trade are Bitcoin and Bitcoin derivatives, and I also have a side of side of Tesla. I can't. I think the upside on Tesla is a little too hard to ignore. I enjoy having at least a little something, so that when Bitcoin does its crashes every so often, I generally like to have a little something else to to soften the blow and make sure my margin doesn't blow up in my face. But this 5K account challenge, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't squeeze it in. Even trying to do like a poor man's covered call or something, it just wasn't going to work for Tesla. So that's the update. Almost back even. Almost back to even, Stevens. So we'll see what Bitcoin is at tomorrow. We'll see what it's going to cost me to roll these to next week. And we'll keep reducing cost basis as and update the spreadsheet and see what my cost basis looks like. It's actually going to go up a little bit because I'm going to have to pay 100 and Mara. I kind of hit on the head almost. I picked 22 and 2250, so that's pretty cool. Uh, those strikes were selected basically perfectly, which is cool because they're the more expensive ones, and the hot ones kind of bit me in the butt a little bit. But totally fine, all according to plan. The up plan is the same as the down plan, which is the same as the up plan. So with that, tech doesn't matter. Be good, Joe.